Houston quarterback Donovan Smith is a first-round graded prospect by me. We will get into his game and what makes him special. All that more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parsons. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every like, every comment, every subscription is greatly appreciated over here, man. And we are into the scouting notebook. Yes, we are bringing it back. I told you, we are rolling. We are grinding this summer, getting you guys prepared for the 2025 NFL draft season, for the college football season. So make sure you continue to tap in with us throughout this summertime process. DP, you're talking about quarterback Donovan Smith, man. Houston quarterback, right? I believe he was at Texas Tech last year. He transferred to University of Houston. DP went and did a deep dive on him. I'm going to talk about another transfer. This guy was at Purdue. Now he's going to be playing edge rusher at Texas A&M. And then we're going to wrap up with the running back. I believe he's at Texas Tech, Tahj Brooks. So we're going to have a good conversation, man. We have a quarterback. We have an edge rusher. We have a running back on tap. But DP, before we get this started, man, why don't you hit him with our title sponsor?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Donovan Smith, I gave him a first round grade, guys. 6'5", 235. A guy that combines arm talent, athleticism, arm angles, mobility, like a plus level athlete on the season for Houston last year. Granted, there was no Tank Dell. I think if Tank Dell was there, we might have seen some better numbers. But 64.5% completion percentage, 2,800 passing yards, and he had 29 total touchdowns. Fun fact, he had a touchdown in 3 different ways. He scored a touchdown in 3 different ways. He had passing touchdowns, he had a rushing touchdown, and he had a receiving touchdown. So he even channeled the Auburn Cam Newton when Auburn threw that fade to Cam. Can't remember which game it was in the SEC that game, but back when he was at Auburn. So he even channeled that and was able to be able to make a play. It just kind of speaks to his athleticism as a 6'5", 235-pound athlete. And when looking at his game, man, he's got quick release. Really appreciate the arm angles, right? A flexible arm. He can throw high, throw low. He brings the ball trajectory up and down. A guy that has multiple release points, in terms of his passing ability. Really good in the short to intermediate game. Talking about just really good velocity, RPMs, zip. He can spin it and really drive the ball in the middle of the field. And you think about those backside digs off of different concepts, the RPO game, different things like that. And to drive the ball, whether it's zone or tight man to man, he throws guys open in the middle of the field, which is something I was pleasantly surprised about. Not surprised, but happy to see. Was just the fact that the ball placement, in the middle of the field between the hashes was on point. Talking about hitting the guy in stride where they weren't stopping for the ball. They were able to keep going and pushing forward. And again, with his athleticism, being a plus level athlete, this isn't the guy, hey, he can get you 5 or 7. No, he's going to extend the playbook. You're going to call QB design runs, whereas the zone read, QB power, QB counter. He's the type of talent athletically. I want to preface this. He's not Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson was an alien. That was just a different type of species, man. To be 6'4", 250, running 4.4, 4.3. I don't expect that from, and the arm talent, walking into the league with a top 3 type of arm. Yeah, you don't really see that from most rookies, But he's still a good enough athlete where you're going to have to play 11 on 11. Like, he has a type of athleticism, Keith, and guys, that will force a defense to, all right, we're going to try man, but if he starts getting out the pocket, we got to switch to zone. And then that opens up those, he has the ability to layer the ball over middle of the field defenders as well. So for me, I just think the numbers can definitely improve. And I'm looking forward to watching him take that leap. He has a first round type of skill set through and through. When you look at the height, weight, the athleticism, the arm talent, and what I really liked about him too is that he was a multi-speed pitcher. Like, he didn't just throw 100-mile-per-hour fastballs, right? Like, he knew how to change up. He knew how to throw that slider, pull, and take some air off the ball. The thing with him, though, that he has to improve is locking onto the first read. He's got to stop doing that. You know what I mean? And I think that comes with, comes with reps, right? Like, you got to allow the game to come to you. Don't stare at that first read every time. Eliminate that. I say every snap is a multiple choice question. 2 + 2, if the first answer, if A is 12, you should already know that's not the answer. Come off of that read quick and get through your progressions. He's got to improve that. He's got a toughness to him where he'll stand and make throws in the pocket, but I don't want him constant. He gets a little too congealed in the pocket. He'll just be a statue. He'll stand flat-footed and just take hits. Don't want that. You know what I mean? For your longevity, we don't need you taking these type of hits in the NFL. But overall, I think I gave him a back into the first round type of grade. We did the mock draft yesterday. Ian comes in with the 22nd pick. I could see him in that type of range just off of the summer tape. If he goes out there and improves, Keith, this guy could be that enigma, that X factor in the QB class of 2025.
Interesting. I think because he's a guy that hasn't popped up among circles, right? And especially, when we talk about quarterbacks, QB1, things of that nature, right? It's Shador, it's Jalen Milroe, it's Quinn Ewers, it's Carson Beck, right? That's the four most notable guys when we talk about getting drafted. So to hear him and that you gave him a first round grade, I think that's rather impressive because there was no buzz about him last year, as far as just a QB prospect. So I want to ask, just athleticism wise, you said he's not Anthony Richardson. You mentioned Cam Newton. Who is he? Like, what athletic profile does he match most similarly to that we've potentially seen in the past?
I think probably closer to Cam, because Cam was like a 4'6" guy, but he was nimble.
Is he running over people? Is he built the same way as Cam? Like, I
think Cam was a little more sturdy in terms of the muscle mass and stuff. But yeah, he's still a lower the shoulder kind of run guys, run through guys and run through tackles, because they, like I said, they'll run QB power with them without question. So yeah, he's kind of on that Cam Newton type of athleticism plane as a big style quarterback, where he has a lateral agility and the quickness to climb the pocket, evade, make a guy miss. And that's what I really appreciate about him too, is the ability to, like, when you got that free running defender who's unblocked, can you make him miss? Can you defeat that free runner? He has shown the ability to do that as well. Then make a move on the pocket, identify. Like, they'll send some nickel blitzes, so some off the nickel, off the slot blitzes at him, and he identify and work around it, run around the guy, make the guy miss, and still keep his eyes down the field. I think that there's another level that he can reach, and hopefully the offensive line, they lost Patrick Paul and stuff like that. Hopefully the offensive line and the receivers will be able to really take that step with him, so he can be able to help this team, and then really elevate his statistics, getting to 3,000. 35, 40 touchdown range, because the Big 12 doesn't play defense as much. So like you want to see just some more production from him. But yeah, this is a young man that has a very NFL ready skill set. Now it's all about the mental game, the game slowing down for him. Like I said, progressing, getting through your reads, your progressions, doing it quickly. But he has arm talent to make every throw in the book.
Okay, now we definitely have to check him out, man. That is Houston's quarterback, Donovan Smith, Mr. 6'5", 225, 230 himself, man. Have to get eyes on him, because probably be a name that consistently rises, right? And you're talking about being in the first round of mock drafts already. And if you're in the first round this early, who knows what the ceiling can be, right? Because those guys constantly elevate if they play good football. Then, like you said, you talked about the Big 12, the lack of defense, put up some numbers. We'll see what happens. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing.
I
What you about
forgot
to
real
say?
quick. I talked to one of my connects who was at Houston. He's left Houston, went to a different school now, and I asked him about Donovan Smith real quick, just kind of talk about the character. He said he's a great leader. Guys rally around him. He commands everybody's respect. He's a hard worker. So all the other characteristics, we always talk about talent being one thing, but character is what makes you better and what gets you to the point of meeting your ceiling. He checks those boxes as well.
So, hey, there we have it. Checking the boxes on and off the field, right? That's what it takes to be a great quarterback, man. Your mentality matters. Your ability to lead a locker room matters. DP, we about to go somewhere where they play defense, man. We're going to that SEC. Yes, we're going to my country, my land. And we're going to talk about edge rusher, Mr. Nic Scourton. He's a Purdue transfer to Texas A&M for this year. So we're going to get into this conversation coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And guys, I'm telling you right now, if you go to FanDuel Sportsbook ahead of the college football season, you can bet on everything like the Heisman betting odds, college football playoffs, which teams are going to make it, the national championship game, all of it. So head over to FanDuel.com/locked-on and start making the most out of your summer. So head over to FanDuel.com/locked-on and start making the most out of your summer, because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Texas A&M's edge rusher, transfer from Purdue, Nic Scourton, Keith, listed as 6'4", 280 pounds. He had a productive season in the Big Ten last year. 50 tackles, 28 total pressures and hurries, 10 sacks. This is a guy that we've seen some of his clips, being filtered all over and through Twitter. What did the tape tell you when you checked out his game?
Yeah, the flashes of what he does as a pass rusher, because he had, just for the people that can't see the graph, he had 10 sacks last year at Purdue. And this is a guy at 280 pounds, DP. He says 6'4", 280. He looks every bit of 6'4", 280. It's not your typical edge rusher profile, right? When we're talking about being 6'4", 245, 255 pounds, maybe 6'5", 6'6", 250. This guy looks like closer to a defensive tackle, right? Closer to an athletic 3 tech, right? Playing on the edge. And listen, he has a quick first step. He has first step explosiveness as an edge rusher. He has a spin move that he'll trigger. You just want to say out of nowhere, right? Like you're not even expecting it. It's almost something that doesn't appear to be set up. So I think what happens is that his athletic profile can catch offensive linemen off guard, right? It's a sense of the fact of he consistently works speed to power, speed to power, speed to power. Then he hits you with quickness. He gets you off balance and he's able to get the sack, right? And you sit there and you say, hey, man, I've been having a good game against this guy the entire game. Then you give up a sack, right? And then you're like, oh, man, that ruins the entire situation as far as, if you're an offensive lineman. So very good player, has upside, right? And him transferring to Texas A&M, so with the Draft Network and with our regions and stuff, I've done Texas A&M with the past three years, right? And he's a guy that fits Texas A&M mode, and the sense of the fact that when you talk about the Marvin Leals, when you talk about Michael Clemens, right? I was about to say I'm blanking on his name, Michael Clemens. Texas A&M, they like these big edge rushers, like the Marvin Leal is a defensive tackle 90% of other places, right? And then I just wrapped up Shamar Turner, right? Shamar Turner is a guy we're going to talk about this year too. He's another guy came out. He's actually the teammate of Byron Murphy in high school. That's a fun fact right there from DeSoto High School. That's my recruiting background, DP. That's why I did the work, baby. He's a teammate of Byron Murphy, but he's another guy that's 290 pounds that plays on the edge. So having Nic Scourton, he fits that Texas A&M mode as far as the big edge rushers, but I like what he can do. I believe let me click through. I believe I gave him a 2nd-round grade. And that's just hoping for the upside, right? As far as him getting into the SEC, having the same amount of sack production. Where could the improvement happen? It's him taking angles, right? And I said this about Washington State edge rusher Brennan Jackson last year. It
Mm.
was more so about taking angles to either widen the offensive lineman or condense them, right? But when he's such a powerful guy that he seeks collisions, right? High speed collisions is what he wants, and he wants to try to convert speed to power. But when offensive linemen consistently know that it's coming, right, they can kind of anchor, they can get their base together, they can get their feet in the ground and be able to be ready to be able to catch, right, and then anchor down against the pass rush. So I would like to just see him take better angles, because you see the athleticism that he can widen the offensive tackle, he can try to beat them around the edge and then work the counter. But when you run that direct line, right, and you try to run through the midline of the offensive tackle, you make it easy for them, because you 280, but most offensive tackles are 330, right? So you're still kind of giving at least 325. So you're not making it easy on them. Get those big boys, make their feet move, and then make them be athletes in space. I think it'd be fun, man. I think this is also a guy that you can reduce him inside. Like I said, if you're one of those teams that run a odd front, right, and he can be an edge rusher for you, then you can condense him inside, do some different things on third down, bring in another speed edge rusher. So depending on how your roster and your depth chart is constructed at the edge rusher position, you can potentially have 3 edge rushers on the field, but Nic Scourton still looks like a defensive tackle. So you're not going to give up a whole lot more in the run game than what you would if you had 3 250-pound guys as edge rushers.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see him. And I remember, just kind of to paint the picture for the listeners, I remember when you did a report on Jahmyr Gibbs, and in your report, you said it's going to be a random Saturday in the SEC where he's going to make plays and people are going to be like, yo, this guy is really good. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing that Nic Scourton has on his has the opportunity that he has. Going into the SEC, you're going to see a lot of good offensive tackles, whether they're young, first, second-year players or established veterans who are getting ready for the 2025 NFL Draft. You're going to have opportunities against a lot of these teams, the Bamas, the Georgias, the Ole Misses of the world, where everything for the SEC with a 12-team playoff at stake. Every game matters now. Like every game legitimately matters. And if it's a situation where you're Texas A&M and you're in one of those tight, closely contested matchups, and you got a guy like Nic Scourton who, if you take that opportunity and go out there and get it, and you have 2.5 sacks, game clinching sack, big moments, right? Closing. Because that's one thing I think one thing we talk about with edge rushers is, all right, are you a guy that's going to be a first half type of guy, or can I rely on you to be the closer? And when you can be that full 4-quarter guy and close the games, the Von Millers, the Myles Garretts, even when you think about just rushers in general, Aaron Donalds, all those great pass rushers we've seen, TJ Watt and all those guys, they close the deal. And I'm excited to see if Nic Scourton, with the opportunity he's gifted now going to the SEC, when you're lined up against Jalen Milroe, 3rd and 10, and the game's on the line, are you going to be able to get back there, beat Caden Proctor, whoever's at left tackle, get that sack, get that win for your team, and kind of advance yourself throughout the SEC? He's got some big opportunities ahead of him.
Yeah, no, I agree that 100%, DP. And the reason, I guess I go to this part, right, is that the Marvin Leal, when I reference him, I can't remember how many sacks he had his last year, but I want to say it was double-digit sacks, I believe, that he had. And he was a very similar profile when you talk about 6'4", 280 pounds, right? But he still went in the 3rd round, and I really liked him. I was aggressive on DeMarvin Lee. I think I gave him a high 2nd round grade, right? I'm like, to be 280 and to be able to move like this. But you've seen kind of a variance, right? I guess like kind of pushback. It's like, hey, are you a tweener in skill set in the meaning of being 280? Are you athletic enough to consistently win around the edge? But then also, if you're not, if we kick you inside, are you powerful enough? Are you strong enough to hold up at the point of attack against the run game to where we can put you at defensive tackle, right? And we talk about tweeners, just with different positions. But I think, especially in a weird way with Texas A&M and just honestly other teams too, right? When we put these 280-pound edge rushers out there, because it probably same conversation you could say with George Karlaftis, right? Is, are you going to be dynamic enough to win on the edge, or if we kick you inside, are you going to be strong enough to hold up at the point of attack and hold up in the run game? So I think that's when we talking about identifying draft strategy / philosophies, right? It's like, okay, what do you do with these 270-pound plus edge rushers that, kind of versatile? Maybe the Brandon Dorless from last year, right, out of Oregon. Where do you play him? Those type of body types, I think, can be very interesting when it comes to the draft conversation, because I think some teams love them. I think some teams kind of put them in the middle to say, hey, not exactly sure what we're going to do. So would be a fun conversation just to continue to have. But edge rusher Nic Scourton, like we said, the Purdue transfer, the Texas A&M is definitely somebody to have on your radar. I believe I gave him a high 2nd-round grade. I like him. I like what he can do. Now it's just a matter of him getting into the SEC and turning it up one more year. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. It's on back to Big 12 country, I believe, with running back Tahj Brooks from Texas Tech. We're going to have the conversation about him. Simply, is he worth the hype, right, at the running back position in this loaded running back class? Where does he fall? Where does he rank? Coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Tahj Brooks, I think he's a 5th-year senior. Yes, 5th-year senior. He's played at Texas Tech his entire collegiate career. Listed as 5'10", 230 pounds. This is a boulder build at the running back position. And he had a really productive season last year. 290 carries, 1,541 rush yards, 10 total touchdowns. And when I watched the tape, the first thing that just popped off the screen, this is a violent, physical, downhill runner. He's a no-nonsense type of guy. Like, he's not going to do a lot of dancing in the backfield. Don't expect a lot of like high-level jump cuts and quick twitch explosiveness. Like, no, he's a move the pile. He's a physical finisher downhill. He's a guy that you think about. I think I put it in my report. He's a volume runner. He gets stronger as the game goes on, Keith. And he's the type of running back. He's almost kind of throwbackish in a sense. Truthfully, he's kind of throwbackish, where you think about the early 2000s where the run game was so prevalent, where it's like, I'm going to run my running back 25, 30 times. He's one of those type of backs where, to me, to be truly effective and to kind of live up to, because a lot of people really like him because of the production he showed. Like, he's got some exciting plays on film, not like athletically, but the physicality of it all, the straight arm, the stiff arm. I can't remember which game I was watching, but he ended up getting tackled for like a 2-yard loss because they got quick penetration in the backfield. But the first defender, he like dribbled his head off the ground like a basketball. Like, the stiff arm was just unreal. You know what I mean? Then the second defender was a big defensive tackle, and he just jumped on him and you know what I mean, was able to bring him down. But it's just those type of things, the contact balance. He had a couple runs against Texas where, like, you didn't think he was going to get out of the pile, but he was able to keep his balance, get skinny enough, and get through the lane. I think the things that's going to be the drawback for some teams is he's not going to be – I don't expect him to test great as an athlete. I think he's more quick than fast, and he's a guy that he runs equal amount of zone and gap scheme runs. I want him downhill 24/7. I don't even though he can one cut, to an extent, I want him north and south. Like, once he gets the ball, shoulders parallel, square to the line of scrimmage, let's get you downhill, big fella, because with his run style, like, he's physical. He's going to, if you give him enough carries, he's the type of guy that can wear a defense down. Where, that phrase of, man, by the time the fourth quarter comes, they're tired of hitting him. He's that type of running back. He looks for contact. He embraces contact. He thrives with it. They run routes with him quite a bit. They just don't throw him the ball. I think he could be a functional safety valve as a check down option, and then especially with his ability to break tackles and run with physicality, he's probably going to make some secondary players in space make some business decisions. Because it's like, all right, I'm one-on-one with this 230-pound squatty frame bowling ball. The low man wins. I can't get lower than this guy, so I'm going to try to take his legs out. He's got, nice size tree trunks for legs. He's strong, full body. I gave him, but I think he is going to be scheme dependent in terms of being in the downhill scheme. And he's really good in pass protection. I want to give him credit for that too. But the third down value outside of pass protection isn't really there and it's not proven. And then I think he's going to have a limited athletic profile. And for that, in terms of the hype, listen, if this was 2000, 2001, he might be a early day 2 pick. And in today's NFL, I think he's going to be. I gave him a day 3 grade, like top of the 5th. I think I gave him, late 4th, top of the 5th. I think this is a guy where teams who value other positions so much more than running back, he'll be their cup of tea. Whereas, like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna throw out a comp real quick. The NFL comp I thought about him. If you remember the guy Mike Davis. He played with the Panthers. He played with the Falcons for a minute. Yep. Same kind of build and everything. I think that you can get some quality starts from him. I just don't think he's a guy that he's not going to be a high level impact player unless the situation is perfect, in a sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. No, I can see that. So, no, I'm glad you gave an NFL comp. What I wanted to ask you was, you said the grade. So, being a 4th-ish, 5th-ish, roundish type of running back, right, with a physical profile, I don't think he's big. Like, he's what, like 5'10", 220? He's not like 6 foot 6'1", right? Somewhere around there. So you talking about 5'10"-ish, 220. Physical profile. I want to ask an NFL team because Texas Tech, I'm assuming, right now, because I watched him some last year too. Like I actually wrote up a report on him and just didn't declare. Right, those are the guys, man. They get you. But he just didn't declare and didn't come out. I wanted to ask you, what NFL teams do you see him running with? Because Texas Tech runs kind of that spread offense, right? But I know you said that his skill set fits. But does that make him somewhat versatile, right? That he's used to playing in a spread, running out of shotgun, things like that. So if you have just a couple NFL teams, kind of both, one a downhill gap power team, and then one that is kind of more of a spread, run out of shotgun and things like that.
I'm glad you brought it up. He excels running out of shotgun, out of pistol, where he's kind of that deep back and he gets a full head of steam. He's really good out of those sets. I think the first thing that comes to my mind, man, the Chargers with Greg Roman. You know what I'm saying? He can give you another NFL comp, Zach Moss. He reminds me a little bit of Zach Moss as well. Zach Moss, it developed more into a pass catcher throughout his career. Or given that opportunity, we saw what he was able to do with the Colts last year, and now he's in Cincinnati. And you talk about a team that runs out of shotgun, kind of spreads Cincinnati. That's another team where you don't think about pairing him with a Chase Brown, right? Being that pass catching back that Chase Brown is, the explosive speed, and you're talking about him being that workhorse 8-minute fourth quarter. All right, we up by 10. Let's go ahead and put the nail in the coffin here and run this clock out. He would be a great compliment to him.
How does
the Zach Moss thing ends?
How about Buffalo? The Bills.
Oh, yeah, Buffalo's another one. Buffalo is absolutely another one. Him and James Cook will be a nice little tandem with Josh Allen because they run a mixture of under center and in the shotguns stuff as well. 100%. I think that's another good a good landing spot for him. And I think Minnesota will be a nice little spot too because Minnesota will go out of shotgun. And then when you think about having J.J. McCarthy there with a year under his belt by time that we get to the 2025 NFL draft, like being able to run out of the shotgun, the pistol, you get the QB zone read stuff, the RPO stuff, things like that. And when you have a lot of receiving weapons, it's going to create lighter boxes for him. So I think he's a good back. He's just to me, he's a one-dimensional back in a sense. And it's like that breed
I agree with that.
died down.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's a runner. He's a downhill north and south runner that you ought to get the ball.
If you could get, if he was a 4.48 guy, his stock would be a little bit higher for me. But I think where his speed tops out at, he's going to get chased down by NFL defenders, not really be able to generate those big explosive plays. And I think that's the big thing for me.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to say shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Listen, make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to make sure you get this consistent information, man, getting you prepped for the NFL Draft 2025, but also for this college football season to know who the playmakers are, to know who's the real deal. So you make sure you tap in with your guys. Listen, man, I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube. Wherever you listen to podcasts, get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today, and everyday shot for being our everydayers. Guys, I'm getting into one of the top receivers that return to college football on tomorrow. Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. We're going to get into his film, what he brings, and what could 2024 do for him? So we're going to talk about this and more on tomorrow's show of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. So come and join the show again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.